The 3 weeks between March the 21st and April the 12th, 1927, were one of the most extraordinary periods in Shanghai's history. They provided the setting for a best-selling novel by the French writer André Malraux, La Condition Humaine, in which some of the leading characters were loosely modeled on the city's communist leaders. The customs house on the Bund, just behind me, was still being built then, as the terrible events of that spring unfolded. Outside the city, the Northern Expeditionary Army is moving, rifles shining, raindrops shimmering, to the rose-colored night of Shanghai. Inside the city, positions had been reconnoitered, sites had been targeted, the whole city had been marked out as prey. By 1927, the Chinese Communist Party and the Kuomintang had been cooperating, somewhat uneasily, for almost 4 years. Together, they'd mounted what was termed the Northern Expedition. The National Revolutionary Army had set out the previous summer from Guangzhou with a mission to overthrow the warlords and unify the whole of China under a Kuomintang CCP government. The military commander, Chiang Kai-shek, was now preparing to occupy Shanghai, which was controlled by the forces of the Zheli warlord, Sun Juanfang. The presence of the foreigners in the concessions made it a delicate operation. If anything were to go wrong, it could spark an international incident. Zhou Enlai, the head of the party's military committee in Shanghai and the highest-ranking communist in the area, had come secretly from Guangdong to prepare an armed insurrection by the city's workers, designed to coincide with the arrival of Chiang Kai-shek's forces, which were advancing from the south. This document sets out the plan for the insurrection, which had been agreed by the leaders of the communist underground at a meeting a month before the arrival of Chiang's forces on the evening of February the 24th, 1927. The word Lao, meaning the old man or the patriarch, refers to the party's general secretary, Chen Jiushu. He was then all of 48 years old. Zhou Enlai was 29, and Luo Yineng, whom the document calls Yi, was 25. The plan was concise, only a few hundred words long, and it had been carefully thought out. The insurrectionists would win over the crews of the gunboats on the river to make sure they wouldn't resist. They'd coordinate with the forces of the Northern Expedition Army, organize the workers to seize arms, and conduct political propaganda. After they took power, they'd form a city government to represent the interests of the people. 3 days later, Zhou Enlai sent messengers to He Yingqin, the Eastern Route commander of the Northern Expeditionary Army, reporting that a general strike and an armed uprising by the workers were imminent, and urging him not to delay, but to send his forces at once to occupy the city. Today in Shanghai, you can travel wherever you like. There are no roadblocks, no barriers, no restricted zones. In the 1920s, it was very different. Shanghai was divided by the foreign concessions, which split the Chinese parts of the city in two. André Malraux called them Shanghai's broken wings. The concession authorities banned the transport of arms through the areas they controlled without a special permit, which meant the uprising had to be decentralized, with separate groups operating independently in the various different areas. On the morning of March the 21st, Zhou Enlai and the military committee learned that the Northern Expedition Army had occupied the suburb of Longhua. Immediately, the signal was given for the workers' uprising to commence. At noon the same day, the Shanghai Trade Union Federation ordered a general strike. One of the largest groups taking part in the uprising consisted of print workers, many of them from the commercial press, which then, as now, was among China's biggest publishing houses. It was the print workers who stormed the Oriental Library and overran the forces of the Zhili and Shandong warlords, which were entrenched there. They made it the headquarters of the insurrection in Jiabei, and then, under the command of Zhou Enlai and Zhao Sheyan, set out to win control of the northern railway station. The battle here lasted some 30 hours. When it ended, the station, the last bastion of the Zhili forces, capitulated to the workers. Even today, many details of the insurrection remain unclear. Where did the workers get their arms? How did the various groups, which were widely dispersed, coordinate among themselves? How did Zhou Enlai and the military committee direct the fighting all across the city? We historians still have much to learn. But the victory was not in doubt. As one worker put it, we were all very excited. The warlords had been defeated. The revolution had triumphed. Never again would the imperialists oppress us. Some people even said, maybe the goods will get cheaper in the shops. On March the 22nd, the insurrectionists established the ad hoc provisional municipal government, composed of communists, members of the left Kuomintang, workers' delegates, and representatives of the Shanghai bourgeoisie. With the success of the uprising now assured, the leaders of the new city government waited impatiently for the arrival of the northern expedition. But the army and its commander-in-chief, Chiang Kai-shek, hurried slowly. For Chiang and his generals had other plans, as the communists would soon discover.